Hello and welcome to Africa Speaks, a show that captures current affairs from across 54 countries and has discussions that seek to drive the continent forward. I'm your host, Joy Doreen Bira. Today is the 1st of August. It is Emancipation Day for all people of African descent. Emancipation Day is an important day for the descendants of Africa, especially those whose ancestors were impacted by the slave trade. Slavery was a system used to have Africans as free laborers in labor-intensive industries such as cotton, sugar, and tobacco. Also, today, in 1960, Benin gained independence from the French, and also today, in 1932, an initiative was started to end slavery by Emperor Haile Selassie. Now, we all know Ethiopia has a history that dates 2 million years ago. But yes, he was one of those historic people as well that did pave a way to see Ethiopia where it is today. Welcome to the show, and let's start by taking a look at some of the big stories. There was no proven drugs or vaccines against Ebola at the start of the recent outbreak that has so far killed 11,000 people, that is dating back from last year all the way to today. Now, researchers at the World Health Organization have revealed that a new vaccine against Ebola has led to 100% protection in recipients. The World Health Organization described the development announced in medical journal The Lancet as a potential game changer. Family and close friends or colleagues of Ebola patients in Guinea will now be vaccinated immediately. Take a look at that story.
The World Health Organization is confident the vaccine against the deadly Ebola virus could transform the way Ebola is tackled, according to preliminary results. There were no proven drugs or vaccines against the virus at the start of the largest outbreak of Ebola in history, which began in Guinea in December 2013. WHO says the findings being published in the British medical journal The Lancet could be a game changer.
Will change the management of the current Ebola outbreak and future outbreaks.
Experts say the results are remarkable. This trial centered on the VSV-EBOV vaccine, which was started by the Public Health Agency of Canada and then developed by the pharmaceutical company Merck. It combined a fragment of the Ebola virus with another safer virus in order to train the immune system to beat Ebola. A unique clinical trial took place in Guinea. When a patient was discovered, their friends, neighbors, and family were vaccinated to create a protective ring of immunity. This could be the breakthrough the world has been waiting for. There is caution, though, as the results are still preliminary, with more data coming in.
We hope that by continuing the trial with this modification, with doing all the vaccination immediately and also including younger people, we will be able to assist the Ebola response team, bringing Ebola transmission to zero in Guinea.
But officials at WHO believe the effectiveness of the vaccine will end up being between 75% and 100%. If such a vaccine was available 18 months ago, then thousands of lives could have been saved.
The data so far shows that none of the 2,014 persons vaccinated developed Ebola virus disease after 10 days after vaccination.
Earlier this month, Liberia experienced a new case of the deadly Ebola outbreak, barely 2 months after the World Health Organization had declared the West African country Ebola-free. The Liberian government confirming the outbreak said a teenager died of Ebola fever and had spread the virus to at least 2 more people. Before the new cases, Liberia had reported its last victim on March 20th and was declared Ebola-free on May 9th, 2015. During the months of peak transmission from August to November last year, Liberia was the setting for some of the most shocking scenes from the outbreak, by far the worst in history. The country was reporting more than 300 new cases a week.
And Cecil, a male African lion, was shot by an American hunter near the border of a national park in Zimbabwe during the week, where the 13-year-old lion lived with several lionesses and cubs, sparking outrage from around the world, igniting conversation on whether trophy hunting of big game animals, especially the endangered ones, really helps fund efforts of conservation or set up anti-poaching units. And of course, authorities allege that Walter Palmer, who is wanted on poaching charges, lured Cecil, a well-known and protected lion, from a protected area in Zimbabwe's Hwangwe National Park and shot him with a crossbow in early July. But Palmer allegedly tracked the injured 13-year-old lion for 40 hours before fatally shooting it. And the shooter of Cecil, Walter Palmer, an American dentist, is said to have paid about $55,000 to kill the animal, and is reported that the hunt may have been illegal. And Bushman Safaris, a small family-run business in Zimbabwe, allegedly planned Walter Palmer's trophy hunting. According to its Facebook page, the company offers top-quality hunts, specializing in leopards with dogs and other big game. And the Zimbabwean government has arrested both the professional guide and the owner of the land where the hunt took place. And that is according to the chairman of Zimbabwe's Conservation Task Force. And joining us now to further shed light on this issue is Solisani Nkube, a journalist with Newsday. Thank you so much for joining us, Nkube. How has Zimbabwe taken the killing of Cecil the lion?
Well, the government of Zimbabwe reacted in a very proactive manner to make people aware of the situation. But unfortunately, the people on the ground, Zimbabweans naturally, they were not so much involved in the way of animals in Zimbabwe. They are not so much interactive to the wildlife issue in Zimbabwe, probably due to the situation on the ground.
Nkube, can you hear me?
I can hear you definitely.
Yes, go on.
Yes, I was saying, the government of Zimbabwe, it moved in, tried to make people aware of the importance of wildlife conservation. But ordinarily, the people on the ground, in the streets of Harare, anywhere, they are not so much involved in wildlife conservation, or it's maybe because of the challenges the country is going through.
Right.
Their focus is on the day-to-day living, and less to do with wildlife conservation or even tourism in particular.
But tell me something, Nkube. How big is trophy hunting in Zimbabwe?
Well, it's a brisk business here in Zimbabwe, given that Zimbabwe went of having one of the very few endangered species in the world. You talk of the big five, you talk of rhino poaching, you talk of we have a very good population of lions in Zimbabwe, around 2,000 or so. So you be talking of it's a big business, but regulated output.
How much is usually paid when hunting, say, the endangered animals like lions and elephants and rhinos? What is usually the fee that is charged?
Usually the fees are not very low. One with the Patawa probably was around 6,000, 20,000. But annually, government rakes in around 40 million from hunting, from trophy hunting, and it's a substantial amount, you know, given the amount of the quantity of animals that we have in the country.
All right. And what are some of the regulations that govern wildlife hunting in Zimbabwe, and what anti-poaching measures is Zimbabwe putting in place?
Well, as a secretary to World Statute that govern many species, Zimbabwe has got laws that talk of. We have the impact law that deals particularly with the protection of animals that are endangered. But the key challenge has been the loopholes and also corruption. It's very predominant in Zimbabwe. People do pay to do illegal poaching. Yes, there are laws that is for you to get a license. You have to show that the animal that you're looking for instance, is sufficient. They are sufficient, and you want to wipe out the population. Then secondly, also you have to show that you've never been involved in any illegal hunting before. That puts at least the government on its side ability to check when we are giving someone who is in serious, anti-business. But the key challenge has been corruption and illegal poaching. It is very, very high. Yeah, people are targeting rhinos, people are targeting lions, elephants. That's something the government is failing to handle properly.
Well, thank you so much, Solisani Nkube. We do appreciate the update. Solisani speaking to us from Harare, Zimbabwe. In regard to the lion that was killed, a 13-year-old majestic lion, Cecil. And we'll be having a bigger conversation about Cecil the lion that is on the next edition of Africa Speaks. Now let's cross over to Tanzania. A Tanzanian cartoon is targeting 1.2 million viewers a week. The cartoon that seeks to teach young children mathematics is aired in Swahili, the Tanzanian official language, and has grown to become the most popular TV and educative program. But here is why this cartoon could be on its way to other African nations like Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda.
It passes for your ordinary cartoon meant to entertain children over the weekend. But that is until you listen to what the animated characters are talking about. This is a new way of learning mathematics in parts of Tanzania. Ubongo Kid is a cartoon set in a fantasy world and is proving to be one of the most popular programs in Tanzania. The startup Ubongo Media produces the show. It follows the educational adventures of a young boy and his friends every week. The artistic director says he taught singing for 15 years in primary school before creating Ubongo Kid with 4 of his other colleagues. He says his mission is to make mathematics fun and memorable.
When I was in primary school, I was hearing that mathematics is very hard subject. And sometimes I didn't understand teacher in mathematics, not because I don't know mathematics, but the language teacher used to teach me mathematics. I didn't see the relation between mathematics with my life when I was a kid.
The cartoon has now been translated in English and is set to make waves in Kenya and Uganda. It is currently estimated to reach some 1.2 million viewers each week. Ubongo Media, which produced Tanzania's first cartoon 2 years ago, is growing and taking on new projects. Today, 17 people work full-time on Ubongo Kid, and the startup is extending its reach through mobile phone.
Kids can interact, they can answer quiz questions and get feedback from their favorite cartoon character.
The team is now working on a new cartoon to help teach English to children aged 3 to 7, planning to market it in other African nations as well as Asia.
Interesting cartoon there, and very innovative if you ask me, and I think that when it cuts across all the East African countries, a lot is going to be learned, knowing that, you know, mathematics is not really an easy subject. Let's now move to North Africa, and an Egyptian court has adjourned the long-running retrial of 3 Al Jazeera journalists for yet another time, with the next hearing scheduled for August the 2nd. According to reports, they say the journalists were found guilty in June of 2014 of aiding a terrorist organization, a reference to the Muslim Brotherhood, which was outlawed in Egypt after the army overthrew President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. Gresti and Fahmy received 7 years, while Mohamed was given 10 years. In January, an appeals court ordered a retrial, saying the initial verdict lacked evidence against the 3 journalists working for the Doha-based network's English channel, Al Jazeera. Now, the journalists and Al Jazeera have vigorously denied the accusations following Thursday's adjournment. The Al Jazeera Media Network's acting director general said that they are outraged that the verdict has been adjourned, and knowing that it was meant to be the final court hearing for the collate. We'll now move on to Burundi, and Burundi's parliament sat for the first time on Monday after President Pierre Nkurunziza won a disputed election, with the leading opposition figure taking his seat despite having boycotted the vote. The United States called the July 21st presidential vote deeply flawed, while regional observers said the poll fell short of being free and fair. The opposition, which also boycotted parliamentary elections held on June 29, has accused the government of violence and intimidation against its members. Nkurunziza's decision to seek a third five-year term plunged Burundi into its worst crisis since an ethnically charged civil war ended in 2005. The opposition says Nkurunziza's bid violated the constitution and could spark another conflict. Opposition politicians were split over whether to take up the seats in parliament or not. They boycotted the polls, but candidates' names were kept on the ballot papers, and some of the lawmakers won seats in opposition strongholds. Opposition leader Agathon Rwasa on Thursday took up the position of deputy speaker in parliament after an election which his coalition had boycotted, prompting a political ally to say the move could cause a split in their alliance. And talking of third-term bids, Uganda's incumbent President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni on Friday picked up nomination forms for yet another presidential term on the National Resistance Movement ticket, beating former Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi's hopes of running on the NRM ruling party's ticket. President Museveni has led Uganda since 1986.
President Yoweri Museveni, who was accompanied by his wife Janet Kataha, had been expected at Plot 10 Chadondo Road at 10 a.m., but he arrived after 2:30 p.m. to a rousing welcome from gathered party leaders and members. He was welcomed by Dr. Tango Doi, the party's Electoral Commission boss, and other leaders. Museveni headed straight to the accountant's office to prove he had paid the required 20 million shillings for both national chairman and that of presidential flag bearer in next year's race. He was later led to the table to pick the forms. After the whole electoral process, Museveni told his supporters that he had decided to join the political race again to accomplish the NRM manifesto on infrastructure development, fighting corruption, improving the livelihoods of people, and accomplishing the regional political integration, among others.
We have worked on the ICT backbone, which lowers the telephone and the internet connection costs. We are now working on building a modern standard gauge railway that will enable a train to go from Mombasa to Kampala in 24 hours. The aim of this massive infrastructure expansion is to lower the cost of doing business in Uganda.
Museveni also promised his followers that the 2016 elections will be a walkover. He commended the new management at the Secretariat for improving the party's activities. Some NRM supporters welcomed Museveni's decision to run again for the presidency.
I was part of the architecture of the sole candidate, so I expressed my interest. This is my candidate.
It's good he has come. He has met his people. It has showed, yes, he's for the people.
I'm very happy that President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni is fully nominated as a solo candidate for the NRM party.
Picking of the forms closed today.
That's definitely going to be an interesting election, knowing that most of the players in this one happen to be players who have been in the game, or at least trying to run for president for the past 10 years. And joining us live from Uganda's capital, Kampala, is NBS TV broadcaster Doreen Komuhanji. Doreen, election fever in Uganda is gaining pace. Coalitions are being formed, and President Museveni is still in the game despite former Prime Minister Amama Mbabazi expressing interest in running on the NRM ticket. And we seem to have the same players in the presidential race. Doreen, what do you have to say about that?
Well, it was a turning point in Uganda's politics yesterday. Well, yesterday, two major events happened. The one at the Cecil Hill, one of the 7 hills in the city center, and the other one at Kolo Hill, also one of the 7 hills in the city. Well, what happened yesterday was we had President Museveni picking his nomination forms from Chadulu. Yesterday was the deadline, and of course this was the confirmation. This was a confirmation that yes, indeed, come 2016, President Museveni will yet again appear on that ballot paper. So all we can say is that the questions are no more on whether or not he will get to stand come 2016. Now, on the other hand, we had the Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi, also the former Prime Minister, an old friend to the President with whom he fell out, also declaring that he wasn't going to stand come 2016 as Chairman NRM and also flag bearer from within, but again he insisted that come rain or shine he will get appear on that ballot paper come 2016 either as an independent or perhaps as an opposition. Now I'm saying either because we aren't sure what exactly will be happening. There's lots of questions. It's again taking us back into that speculation process that he at one time kept us in. That was after he was dropped as the that was after he was dropped as the Ugandan Prime Minister. Well, he says that he will not stand from within because now this is very obvious. He said there was a deadline. He didn't get the nomination forms. So the big question is what next for the former Premier now that he wasn't able to pick the nomination forms from NRM. What does this mean for him? What are his major plans ahead of 2016? Well, all we can see right now, quoting him, he says that come rain or shine, he started a journey, this particular journey that we are discussing, and he is going to end this journey as the president. He will be sworn in come May 2016. But the question is, how exactly is he going to appear on that ballot paper? Is he going to appear as an independent? Is he going to appear as the opposition? Do we see him join one of the coalitions in the country, that's TDA, the Democratic Alliance? And if he joins TDA, what does this mean? Is TDA looking at him as a force to reckon with? Because we've also had members from TDA that look at him with a second eye, because according to them he was in a system that they are so much against. According to them, he is a part of this particular system that they are fighting. So question is, can he be trusted? Can TDA look at the former Prime Minister as a force to reckon with? And the other question would be, what exactly does he bring onto the table? What exactly is he carrying with him? Well, he's looked at as first of all as one person who's been in the system 40 years as a friend to the president, and there's no question that he definitely knows the president. There's no question that he definitely knows all the corners in this system. There's no question that he definitely knows how the system works. But again, you also have to remember that TDA also has yet another strong force, and that's the former FDC president, also a significant opposition face, Dr. Kizza, who again, as we speak, carries plenty of support from within the country. So who are they looking at? Would they rather look at the former premier, because according to them he's a new force to reckon with? He was within the system, he knows how the system works, and perhaps he will give them a new change, of tactic, or perhaps they would rather keep Dr. Kizza, who's been in the system, happens to be very popular among the Ugandans, going by the numbers that show up during his various presidential campaigns that he's been able to carry out so far between last month and 2016. So who exactly will they, narrow down onto? So those are the questions that are happening in the country right now. The best that I can say is that as the media, we've also been kept, in guessing. We don't really know what exactly will be happening, but the biggest assurance that I can give you right now, Joy, is that the right honorable Mama Babas will not stand onto the NRM ticket. He remains NRM. He insists that he is a life member, of the NRM. But again, the question on whether or not he will come as yellow come 2016 as the NRM color is normal because he did not fit the nomination forms. And that's for the president, of course. The best we can say is that he has won the first battle, but we cannot say that he's been able to win the entire war. The first battle now, of course, was him managing to rid Mbabazi out of the internal race. But again, remember, he now has to face him from outside. So the question again is, where is Mbabazi stronger? Is he stronger from outside, or he would rather have kept him from within and perhaps managed him from within in a room as a party? But again, also the other thing that I would finally get to look at is how the president appears at Chad on the tricky nomination forms. The Pope that we saw yesterday, the following, I can say we almost saw the entire cabinet, escorting the president to pick his nomination forms. What does this mean? What message was he sending out to Ugandans, and again to those that perhaps feel that he's fallen out with most of his supporters? And in this case, I'm also looking at the historicals, because word has been rife that the president is no longer as popular as he used to be, especially amongst the historicals. But again, yesterday, when he came to pick the nomination forms, he came with a huge number of the NRM historicals whom he was able to present before the media. So what does that mean? Why exactly did he have to show that yes, indeed, I'm still in good terms with the historicals? What message was he sending out to the back of the former premier, Mama Baba? So come out and say that, you know what, he's no longer as popular as he perhaps used to be.
Well, he's no longer as popular as he used to be, and it's quite an interesting turn of events in Uganda there, that we are seeing a number of presidential hopefuls who have been in the National Resistance Movement Party and now want to run against president, or the incumbent president, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. We'll be keeping tabs with that story for you, knowing that Uganda is going to the polls, presidential polls in 2016. Now, you're watching Africa Speaks. Let us know what you think of the stories from around the continent. Use the hashtag Africa Speaks, and we'll be sure to look at some of your views. Still to come, we have an interesting conversation we're going to be having with Gideon Muga, who is the National Director and CEO of the Association of People with Disabilities in Kenya. He's going to be talking to us about the polio controversy and what the Catholic Church is saying and what is the right thing to do amid this all. The polio vaccination started today and is set to go on, I think, for quite a number of days. But what do you think? Do you have reservations in regard to the campaign? And if yes, what are your reservations? Use the hashtag Africa Speaks. Let's take a break. We'll be back with more. Stay with us.